Thanks for joining us today to discuss life and godliness with Rick and Angela Carter. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, email us at cartersforhope@gmail.com. That's Carters, the number 4, hope@gmail.com. Any questions you have, we'll discuss in future episodes. Right now, sit back and let's join in on the conversation. Happy Memorial Day, Marca.
It's Marca.
It is Memorial Day, and we are in Fillmore, Utah, and doing a Hope conference for a church here, and have had a good time with the church. Had one saved yesterday, and that was a blessing. We are in Utah, and it is hotter than it was in Colorado.
Yes, it's nice actually.
It's very warm, and so this morning being Memorial Day, and a day to kind of rest. A lot of people take Memorial Day off and so forth. So what we do on Memorial Day, we preach a conference,
and record a podcast.
But this morning we went with the pastor and some of his family and went out and played pickleball.
Yes, which is why my cheeks are all rosy.
And why we're both wearing t-shirts.
And my hair is pulled up.
Yeah. So here's the thing about pickleball. There's no pickles involved.
No.
None.
I mean, after you get done playing, you want to drink the pickle juice because you exerted energy.
Yeah, it's fun though, and it's I think better than tennis. There's less running, but there's no running. There's just less running than tennis.
Maybe.
Maybe depends on how bad you are. So anyway, but we had a good time. So.
Yeah, I think I played 6 games today.
I did not. I did not play as many as Angela.
You played 2, right?
Because I played 2, and I sat in my chair in the shade. But I have to preach tonight, and I didn't want to wear myself out. And we get back here, and she's like, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do anything. I said,
I did tell him, I'm like, if I fall asleep while you're preaching, please don't get offended. I'm just tired.
See how she is? She'd rather play pickleball than do spiritual stuff.
I was having fun.
Scoot over this way. Your way's over there for some reason.
I was having fun. I was having a good time.
Yeah. I know. And it was good. We had a good time. We did have a good time. So today our topic is fulfilling your role
in your marriage.
Yeah. And so this is probably not going to be as fun a topic as our last topic. We got a ton of comments.
Yes, thank you for all the comments.
And most of them involved sending me surveys, I think. So thanks for that. And commenting about Christmas music and stuff like that. But we had a good time with that podcast. So we do want to do something in the future. We've got several comments from folks about topics, but that we don't feel like we could do an entire podcast on.
Right.
And so what we're going to do here as soon as we have enough topics, we think we can do it. We're going to do a Q&A type podcast. Question and answer type podcast where it would be maybe each answer might be a little bit shorter, not a full podcast length.
Right.
And so if you have questions you'd like us to answer, please send them. It might be questions about pet peeves or about pickleball or Christmas music, whatever. Just send those on to us at Carters, the number 4 hope@gmail.com or on any of the platforms you can comment,
on Facebook
message, whatever, and we'll add that to our little list, and then we'll answer as many of those as we can on the Q&A podcast here in a few weeks. And please, as always,
like and subscribe and share.
There you go. All right. So, roles in marriage. This is how we're going to do it. The topic here, I know, is one that is not always appreciated and fun, but it is a necessary topic.
Right.
And it's one in counseling we deal with a lot.
All the time, yeah.
And I know that sometimes men, they don't want to hear what a woman thinks they ought to be doing, and women don't always want to hear what a man thinks they ought to be doing. And there can be some important things that need to be said that, are that way, where people need to hear them, but they don't always appreciate hearing them from the
Their
opposite
spouse.
gender. Sometimes they don't appreciate hearing them at all. And the one thing we believe about marriage counseling that's very important is that we can't counsel someone who's not there. And often in counseling, people want to know, can you fix my spouse? And that's what their issue. I want you to fix my spouse. And we can't fix anyone's spouse. All we can do is tell you the things that you ought to be doing. How you can do God's will in your life. And so each of us today are going to take turns talking about the role that I'll talk about the role that a man has. Angela will talk about the role a woman has, and then I'll mansplain what she meant. Is that how we said we were going to do it?
I think that's what we said.
I'm just kidding. So we'll just talk about
we'll break it down into one sentence.
So we'll kind of bounce back and forth. I'll give something for the man, Angela gives something for the woman, and back and forth, just regarding roles in the marriage, because this is something that the world, our culture and our world right now has so
messed up.
It's so bad.
It's messed up. Yeah.
I think that there's this idea that even, and I'm talking about amongst independent Baptists and Christians, I'm not even talking about out secularly here, okay? There's this idea that the man is supposed to be the head of the home and do whatever his wife tells him the head of the home is supposed to do. Is that fair? I mean, because it's almost like this analogy is sometimes used, like the man's the head of the home, but I'm the neck and I turn the head and I'm the one that, and it's like he doesn't do what I want him to do, and therefore he's not leading the home right.
Right. Which is wrong.
Which is wrong. But that's really common.
That is very common. You hear it a lot. And maybe they don't say it in those exact words, but they mean it in those exact words.
Right. That's how I hear it. Uh-huh. I'm just mansplaining how I hear it.
That's how I hear it.
Okay. So you mansplain it too? Mm-hmm. All right. We're both on the same page on that.
We've been married for 32 years. I think I can speak your language.
Oh, really? Sweet.
Most days.
So, okay. So I'm going to let Angela start. Ladies roll. No, I'll start. Men should go. I was going to say ladies go first, but in this instance, the man's supposed to lead. So I'll start and I'll
do it.
Beat up the guys for a minute.
Beat them up.
So make sure and share this episode with your husband.
With your guy friends.
Well, let's hope it's the husband, and we'll because we're gonna just nail him. We're gonna nail him to the wall.
I meant that the husband can share it with his other guy friends.
Oh, the husband can share it. Yeah. Well, guys don't like to admit they have guy friends. That's not a term guys use. They just say friends. My friends. Girls say girlfriends.
Share it with your friends.
Guys would never say that. So my guy friends. No, that's disgusting. You stepped into areas that are forbidden and unnecessary. So
sorry. Well, they are guys.
Leadership in the marriage doesn't just mean telling people to do what you want. Leadership begins with spiritual leadership, and that doesn't mean just telling people to go to church or taking them to church. Spiritual leadership is shown in the devotional life first, your walk with God, but also your leadership of the family and walking with God. And a lady needs a spiritual leader. She wants to know that she's being led spiritually, and not just by your feelings, your desires, and your wants. Mm-hmm. And so when there's big decisions to be made, sometimes guys will try and think it through and then spring it on their wife. Like, I figured this out, as if she's going to be like just really happy she never had to even have a conversation about it. But what you need to do is have that conversation. This is spiritual leadership. Have that conversation with your wife. Not, wife, what should we do? But, wife, here's a decision that needs to be made. I'm open to you sharing your thoughts about it. And then we're going to pray about it before I make the decision. And just because Angela shares her thoughts with me about something doesn't mean that's what we're going to do.
Right.
but she needs to know that she can share her thoughts.
Yeah.
And she needs to know that I'm praying about decisions before I make them.
I like to have a voice.
Right. And I would say this, that sometimes there's sometimes, and I'm not trying to speak to the ladies, but sometimes they will say, well, you didn't do what I wanted, therefore I don't have an opinion. And that's a wrong way of thinking.
Right.
Opinion doesn't mean you get to make the decision. Input, though, does mean there are many times I've told Angela, what is your thoughts on this? And we've prayed about it together. We've discussed it, and we've prayed, and we've sought the Lord. And I made a decision that was not along the thoughts she had about it, but it was easier for her to submit to my leadership because she knew it wasn't just a selfish decision or a decision to appease me. She knew I had prayed about it. And that's what spiritual leadership is about. Spiritual leadership is about taking the time to have discussions, but also, most importantly, taking the time to pray together about important decisions so that they know that you're asking God for his guidance and leadership. And I am responsible for making the decisions in the home. I am the spiritual leader. That's the role God has given me, first and foremost, to be the spiritual leader of the home. And we'll talk about other kinds of leadership, but if you're not exercising spiritual leadership, you're not fulfilling your role in the marriage.
Right.
So that's the first thing I would say to men.
Well, and I would just say on this side of that topic, when we were first married, because I didn't understand marriage, that used to irritate me if you asked my opinion and then you didn't do it.
Really? I never noticed.
I know, because I didn't understand marriage. But now, I would say on this side of it, now I want to have, like I said that a while ago, I want to have a voice. I want to know that you hear me when I have an opinion or a thought. But I also know now, for many years, that you listen to my opinion and you listen to my thoughts. You consider them and weigh them. And if you decide not to go that direction, that it's not against me.
Right.
Because you are ultimately the one that has to make the final decision. But I know, for me, that security comes in that I know you listened to me, you considered me,
right,
and you made the best decision that you felt like God wanted you to make. So that spiritual decision. So that on this side of it, I had to learn not to look at him not taking my position or my advice as against me.
I think that some men fear that if they ask their wife's opinion and then don't take it, that their wife will take it personally and be angry at them.
Well, I think that too, and I also think that,
and I do think that happens. I know it does
happen. Well, I think the other side of that is, I think sometimes men don't ask their wife's opinion because they feel like that's a threat to their masculinity. Right.
Well, there certainly can be an insecurity about asking people's opinions and being of the, I'm the man, grunt, type thought life. And there's a difference between being manly and being macho.
Right.
And a man that is secure in who God has given, the role God has given him, should not feel threatened by taking input from others. Some men don't want to go to their pastor and get counsel because, well, I'm the man,
They feel threat.
There's a threat there that if I'm supposed to just know everything, and no one knows everything. And there are many times that I've talked to Angela about issues, and she's had insightful thoughts that I had not considered. She sees things from a different perspective, and it may not ultimately be the decision that she wanted me to make, but usually it's also not the decision I would in my flesh want to make. It's usually something, that's, more in trying to be in alignment with the scriptures and God's leadership. And I know there's not verses sometimes on what car to buy or things like that, but at the same time, there's principles about financial management. There's principles about, being a wise steward and so forth. And that has to be taken into consideration and weighed. And a wise person that is secure in that fact that God put them in that leadership position will seek to get as much counsel together in the multitude of counselors, their safety. And it's not shirking making the decision, but it's getting as much information as you possibly can so that you can make the best decision.
Right.
And your wife should be a major source in that, and as opposed to your buddies.
Right. Because it also, what it does for your wife is it does create a sense of security because she feels included in the home. She
Right.
doesn't feel isolated or only regulated to
Right.
one aspect of marriage.
Right. Absolutely.
So it gives those insulating rings of security. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that was my first one.
Okay. So, just starting from the beginning, ladies, a wife was created as a helpmeet to be a help to their husband. And one of the things, I should have said this was one of my pet peeves, but one of the things I think ladies struggle with is they feel like they don't have an identity if they are looking to be a help to their husband. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because our society has basically said that a woman, if she's not got a career or
Right.
something like this, then she's nothing.
Right.
Well, you're just a housewife.
Yeah.
And that's such a destructive thing to say, and so dismissive of ladies who invest themselves in their family as if the family wasn't the most important aspect of
Right.
society.
Right. And even just before family, I mean, you married your husband before you started a family, you know?
Well, hopefully, but
So, I mean,
sometimes not. But when you got married,
Right.
that should be the primary relationship.
So I just always think of it like my first priority is to you,
Yeah.
then to the kids, you know?
That's an important statement, and I think a lot of times it's missed, and not just by ladies, by men also, where the kids become the number one priority in the home. And I say this a lot in teaching and counseling, that the most important thing you can give your kids is a strong and right relationship between you and your spouse. And if the kids become number one instead of your spouse, and I'm not talking about number one as opposed to God. Obviously, God is number one. Okay.
Yeah.
But within the context of the family, the spouse is to be the priority here. And if the spouse is the priority, the kids will be happy. Now, that doesn't mean they'll be happy in the moment. It means that they'll have security and they'll have long-lasting joy knowing that there's that security that mom and dad's relationship is good and right, and it takes away a lot of fears.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it makes them, totally. But I just think that that's probably the biggest thing that we get wrong right off the bat, is that we put our identity in the wrong place. When we are created to be a helpmeet, not isolated to ourselves, but when we come together, we are one.
What does it mean to be a helpmeet? Because I think there's a lot of philosophies out there.
Well, I mean, I just always look at it as whatever you need me to be, that's what I need to be. Whatever I need to do to help our family and help you serve the Lord to the best of our ability, whatever that is, and it changes throughout life.
That's true too.
So,
what is needful when there's children in the home is not needful when there's not children in the home.
Right.
I mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are always needful, but
yeah. And then that just kind of like, to be a helpmeet opens up into all kinds of things. I'm to look out for you, for your protection from other ladies. I'm to look out, to help you navigate this sinful world because it's there,
that doesn't mean I don't have that responsibility.
No, but sometimes
I'm saying that because there is certain cultures out there that basically abdicate a man's responsibility for his own sexual purity.
Sure.
As if it were all the woman's responsibility. And that's not
wrong.
what Angela was saying.
No.
And I just wanted to point that out.
No, that's not what I was saying
It's
at all.
my responsibility to be pure before God.
Yes.
It's my responsibility to bring my lust under subjection to the Holy Spirit of God and not let my lust reign. And it's never, ever, ever, ever my wife's fault if I don't.
Right.
It's mine. It's my responsibility.
Right. Right. What I meant by that was like sometimes I see things that you don't see. I see little, because ladies know ladies, you know, and not that men can't see things that are blatantly obvious, but it's those.
Well, sometimes it does have to be blatantly obvious
Well, that's
for a
true.
man to see it.
But I mean, sometimes there's things. For instance, just kind of give a little illustration, just as of recent. You're always joking, you know,
with everybody.
So like different things. Well, we went out to eat, and the waitress came over to take our orders, but instantly I could pick up pretty quickly that she was not going to be somebody that he could joke back and forth with, because she would not take it right. She would respond flirty. And so she took our drink orders, and I leaned over and I told him, don't joke with this one.
She said, don't joke with the waitress. And I'm like, I didn't. And
that's true. And he's like, I didn't. I'm like, I know.
And she's saying, and don't.
And don't.
Or
and
else.
Then it became pretty obvious.
I knew when that knife was in my thigh that she was serious about it. No, I'm just kidding.
But it became pretty obvious pretty quick when she came back.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have joked with that. So that's what I mean. Like, I need to be watchful for that, for things that maybe you don't pick up on.
Yeah.
You know, because...
And it's not like that happens often,
No.
to be honest. I mean, but periodically, sometimes when I was pastoring, we might have a visiting family there, like not really preachers or something. I'm talking about like people that visit the church, or a single lady that visits the church. And Angela would say, probably better keep some distance with that lady, you know. And that happened a few times. It wasn't like very frequently.
But then because of our role, because of our purpose of being pastor, I felt like it was my part of me being a helpmeet to be with you when you counseled other ladies and things like that.
Absolutely. I never counsel women alone, period. I don't text women alone. If a woman texts me, I will either have Angela respond, or I'll tag her into a response. And there have been maybe a handful of exceptions over the years where it was like a
one-time thing.
Yeah, a quick response, and I'm like, oh nuts! I should have but very, very rare exception that's ever happened. And when it has happened, I've gone to Angela and be like, hey, I forgot to tag you in on this response.
Here it is. Yeah.
And so she's aware. And that's not because I think every woman is, you know, adulterous or something like that. It's because I never want Angela to have to ever worry that I'm somehow communicating with a woman that I could develop feelings for some other woman or something. I want her to have confidence that I have fidelity to her.
Sure. And I don't want to give opportunity for a lady who has a seducing spirit to have opportunity to get to you. Right. So I always look at those things as part of my job as being a helpmeet.
Right. I think sometimes the term helpmeet is the word help to be a help, and the word meet means suitable. And every man has different needs, and that's just a reality. Men have similar desires, but they have different needs. And there's things that Angela does well that I do not do well. And I would be foolish to not let her help me in those areas. However, I want to say in this response, so this is kind of my second area of my role, my responsibility as the husband is to not let the pressures of the family and life fall upon my wife. I'm responsible to carry those pressures. And I am, as a man, I am created by God to do that in a different way than Angela is. That doesn't mean she can't carry stress and pressure and all those things. She can. But she shouldn't have to carry them because I'm unwilling or I'm unwilling to learn, right? And so one of the things as a husband that I think is important is that I am the protector of my wife. That's a major role. Well, sometimes that protection has to do with physical safety, and sometimes it has to do with emotional safety.
Yes.
And that when I say emotional safety, I'm talking about making sure she knows that I'm not doing anything behind her back that, you know, would lead down a road to infidelity or something like that. But also it means that I take into consideration the weight of stress she has to carry in regards to the home, and I protect her from becoming overburdened and overloaded. And so I'm in protection. That doesn't mean keeping her in ignorance. So I take care of the finances. And when we first got married, I wasn't very good at it. And that's a reality. And there are many men that are not great at taking care of the finances. And it's not an excuse to not do it. And I think that's sometimes the problem, is that gets then dumped on the wife. And then the husband uses the excuse of, well, she's better at it than I am. But also then what that usually means is she has to carry the weight of the financial burden and financial decisions. And they are heavy. They're difficult. And so we worked together early on in bookkeeping and things like that. But I always made the decision on finances until I learned better how to manage the bookkeeping plans and investments and all of those type of things. And that wasn't like a long time into our marriage, but early on, it was clear I wasn't quite prepared for the financial management of the home.
Right.
And I think that's one important area parents ought to invest in their children, teaching them to be financially prudent and wise and knowing how to manage finances. And that's a difficult thing. And sometimes you don't know how important that is until almost too late. Sometimes. Yep. But because financial habits are set early in life. And so usually the idea in a home is that, hey, there's one that's a spender and there's one that's a saver. And it is important that you not only save, that you do enjoy and have fun together, but it's also wise that someone not just go, well, I'm the spender in the home, so that's what I do and I make things fun, as if it was a thing that it can cause a lot of stress.
Yes, very much.
And it's something that I really have to protect her. That's part of my role as the protector, is to also protect her from the emotional stress and those conflicts, so that she doesn't have, the more stressed out she is, the less she is open to being attentive to the other needs that I may have. And I'm not talking about intimate needs in that sense. I just mean generally, it just makes it like harder to focus on the home and the family and those type of things, because I'm casting that stress on her so I can relax. I work hard all day. I need to come home and relax, and that's my thing. And you know, then that dumps the stress on her, and she feels overwhelmed, and then feels like, because I make a big issue about I need to be able to relax, that she can't then share that burden with me, and she's got to carry it herself. And I've seen that many times. And so that protector role, sometimes men, we think about protector and only in the physical sense, right? If some man says something to my wife, you know, I'm on it, you know, but that's like only one aspect of protector. Having a bunch of guns is only one aspect. It's an important aspect. I'm going to say that. Guns and knives, very important that you have a very large number that you can spread around the home, you know, but anyway. But probably on a daily basis, and a more practical basis, that emotional protector is a big thing.
It's huge.
And I'll speak to this as a pastor too. That means that there are certain burdens that I carried as a pastor that I didn't share with my wife. Now they were few.
And on this side of that aspect, I had to learn that when you didn't share things with me, not to pester you to know, because there was a reason that you didn't want me to know. And that took me a long time. Like, I didn't pester you all the time, but I would get so frustrated, like, well, he's keeping stuff from me, which is a lie from the devil. He's keeping stuff from me. But then I realized, I don't know when I realized, just one day I realized that no, there's a reason why he's not telling me these things, because he is trying to protect my mind, my thought life, in emotions. And so I need to just let it go. And I'm okay with not knowing everything now.
And as part of that and there's very little that Angela doesn't know. There's sometimes I counsel with men. She doesn't need to
I don't
know.
need to know those things.
It will hurt her to know. And as a pastor, there were issues we were dealing with as in the church that until the church needed to know, she didn't really need to know, because it was going to hinder her spirit from being able to minister to people in a right way.
Yeah.
Because if I'm dealing with someone on an issue and it's a prickly issue, it'll hinder her.
Yeah, because I want to defend him.
Right. And so sometimes those type of things have to be, held in reserve, because I am protecting her.
Yep.
And I would just say to her in those moments, I'd say, look, there's definitely issues here. I am working to resolve them. At this time, I feel it's best that I don't burden you with those things.
Yeah.
And she, at first, that bothered her, but then over time, she realized it wasn't me trying to keep secrets from her.
No.
It was me trying to protect her and help her in that fashion. And that's my job. My job is to protect her.
Yes.
And so protector is a big role a man has.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Another lady's role.
Well,
we're not going to get anywhere
anywhere.
all of these roles.
No, we're not. One of them is a keeper at home. I have talked to many ladies who don't keep at the home. They just, I'm just going to say it like it is. They're just being lazy.
This is why
do the things they want to do.
I'm not saying things about the ladies.
And they're just lazy, and they don't want to do the necessary things to be a keeper at the home.
In what way do you think that there's laziness?
It is our job to clean the house.
Okay.
It is our job to cook the food, prepare the meals and things. I'm not saying...
Now, what if she works outside of the home?
If she works outside of the home, we've always taught it's both of their jobs, because if they're both working outside, they both need to work on the inside.
But if she's not working outside of the home,
right,
that's what you're talking about.
Right. If she's not working outside the home is her job to keep it clean, to provide the food. And I'm not a great cook, and there were many times that he come home and cook. I'm not saying that your spouse can't cook. Can't cook the meals from time to time.
She's very hard on herself, but she is a good, very, very good cook.
But what I am saying, and I understand, when you have little kids, the house doesn't stay clean. I'm not saying your house has to be,
expectations have to be
Better Homes clean, magazine clean. It doesn't have to be that. But it is your job to care for the home. So I remember those times.
There's a difference between lived in and filthy.
Right. And I remember those times when, the kids were little and I couldn't keep up. And there were times that I would ask you, I'd be like, honey, I'm struggling. I can't seem to get all my chores done. And it doesn't stay that way. And that's a huge frustration for ladies, because you don't feel like you get anything accomplished, because as soon as you turn around, it's undone again.
I think one of the things that helped us greatly is when you quit trying to just unload the emotional side of that and being resistant to my help.
Yes.
And when you asked me for help.
Yeah.
And I was able to help give you some order, schedule, direction, having a schedule. When you don't work outside of the home, it's easy to have no schedule.
Right.
And that's one of the downfalls.
It's a danger.
Right.
You need to have a schedule.
But there was a time early in our marriage when you would be frustrated, and then I would try and help, and you'd get mad at me for trying to help.
Because I wanted to do it myself, and it just wasn't working.
But that's the whole point of marriage, right? Is that you are a team, and being willing to let your spouse help you but it's hard for ladies a lot of times to receive help from their husband, because then they feel like, oh, well, then I can't. I'm saying I can't do it. I'm a failure. And that's not what it is at all. Anyone that works a job knows there are things that they need help from other people to do. There's input they need from other people. Right. And just like a man ought to take input from his wife, a wife ought to take input from her husband.
So I think that's a big one. And we've just counseled so many times where the lady doesn't do anything around the house. The husband goes and works the job, and he comes home and cleans and takes care of the kids and cooks, and that's wicked.
That does unfortunately happen.
And I just made a lot of friends.
Well, we had too many friends anyway.
So it is. It's just wicked. It goes against the Bible. So
Okay.
But I think that's one. And again, I'm not saying it has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be white glove clean.
Is there anything that you would say helped you? Because I know that was an area you struggled with early on. Partly, I think you didn't when you grew up. Your mom basically did everything while you guys were gone.
Yeah, and my mom kept a clean house, so
knew what to do. I think raising your kids to do some of those things.
Teach them those things. Andrea Gosmar was a huge help to me. She helped me learn how to be a bit more organized because of that. And then also, I think the other aspect of that, I think sometimes ladies go. There's a ditch on both sides where they don't do anything, they're lazy, and the house is a pigsty. And then there's the ladies that go too far on the other side, where no one can live in the house because you mess it up. So somewhere there's a middle. And I think that, reading books on organizing, I think there is something to, what's it called? The Simple Life or the...
decluttering.
Yeah, the decluttering where you don't have a whole lot of everything. That's fine. You don't have to have a whole lot of everything.
You don't even have to read books anymore because I'm sure that there are even podcasts or YouTube channels about.
You have to be careful with that. Watching the influencers and the podcasts and all that.
Yeah, I'm not really talking about influencers in that sense, but if you want to learn how to organize,
keep a home, yes.
I'm saying that there are things. There's more than just books available now.
And I think probably the number one thing that helped me is
how-to videos are just
just remembering that everything should have a place, and then the things that you gather that you don't have a place for, you need to figure out where to put those. Don't just shove them in a drawer, or whatever. Which is what my tendency
used to be,
sometimes.
Used to be.
But everything needs to have a place. If everything has a place, then you can tell your child, hey, go put that up where it goes, but make sure they know where it is. You've trained them that that's where that spot goes. It helps things go faster when you have company come over and you need to clean up real fast. You know, you're not just shoving stuff in the oven and the dishwasher and the closets, but where they don't go.
Right.
Everything has a place. So.
Okay. All right, so another role for a man is that of provider.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we live in a day where a lot of times people are of the mind that, well, we can't make it on one income. But what usually that means is we can't have all the toys we want.
Right.
And we can't have all the big vacations we want.
Live the lifestyle we want.
And so forth without two incomes. And I am not someone who believes it's unscriptural for a woman to ever work, although I do believe that if you have children at home, the mom ought to be primarily at home with the kids, and the dad ought to make the living. And I think sometimes the error happens early in the marriage when you have two incomes and you become dependent on two incomes instead of on one. And so I did this with all of our kids, and I always counseled this way, is when you're first married, learn to live on only his income and put her income into savings or plan for a big purchase, whether it's a house down payment or a car payment, car down payment, or buying a car outright, and learn. And then at first it may be difficult because it may be that it's difficult to live on only his income. But I do know this, that if you can live on only his income, then when you have kids, there's not this fear of, well, you can't stay with the baby.
Right.
Because of that. So every man is going to be different. It's not like every man needs to have a mega $1 million income or something like that. But this goes to his responsibility as protector. Also, part of protecting is protecting the home from the creep of worldly lust and desire into the finances.
Right.
And so providing for his family means doing the best he can with work, right? Being committed to his job and doing his best and seeking, to be pleasing to God in that fashion. But it also means being prudent on the financial side of things as far as not overspending and not putting yourself in a situation where your wife has to work so you can have toys.
Right.
And I think that is a real danger thing that I see happen too often.
Right. And from the wife's perspective, it doesn't help with her feelings of being loved. It just makes her feel like she's just being used.
Right. But also I will say this, that there are some ladies that have to learn that unrestrained spending can't happen. Right. Because you know, if your husband's trying to provide, that's right. If he's trying to provide, but he's not providing enough for you to buy all the purses and shoes you want, the problem isn't his provision. The problem is your lust. Well, and you have to bring, and it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. And I think the other side of that as well is, you know, if your husband's working and you're barely making it, the Proverbs 31 woman, she looked for ways
became industrious.
To be industrious from home.
Correct.
She didn't go out and
that's easier now than it's ever been, actually.
To daycare. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, so there's things that you can do, and you need to ask the Lord to help you see what it is that you can do to help if you need to help, or if he. But I think sometimes the other side of that too is because of how much we've counseled before. The guy works a job, but he doesn't seek to better himself. He just does the minimum, and then he comes home and plays video games.
Right.
And then
that's more common now.
And the wife feels like abandoned. Helpless, you know. Right. So I mean that's the other side of that.
Yeah, you ought to, as a man, seek to provide the best you can for your family. Now, again, it may be that there's a limit on the type of career that you have, and I'm not saying you have to always go for the highest paying career.
No.
But you ought to always try and have be the best employee and seek to improve your position as much as possible so that you can be the best provider possible. Yeah.
Well, and we've met people that the husband didn't have any particular trade skills, so he had a job, but then in the evening he would take classes or whatever to better himself, to get a better paying job, to provide more. Taking classes
to be a better provider is different than playing video games.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. But that's part of being the leader of the home as well. Like, okay, this is my role. I'm to better provide for my family and things like that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the wife can be industrious from home and help as he does that. And I think, for myself anyways, I know I was more willing to do that when I felt like you were doing as much as you possibly could. And so then it was like, okay, we're a team effort here as he betters himself, I didn't feel like I was being abused. I felt like this was... Right,
you were contributing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got time for maybe one. You have anything else you want to...
I think another danger area that ladies fall into is when they do have children, they don't, they fall into the trap of one, it's hard disciplining by yourself when your husband's at work. So they get lazy at it and they don't keep dad's rules when dad's not there.
So the role of, and I don't think the mom should be the enforcer.
No.
But at the same time, she can't not enforce the rules when dad's not present.
Exactly.
In other words, consistency. And
because then the kids learn to play that, and you can't do that.
Kids will always try and play you against each other.
Absolutely.
They're natural manipulators.
Yep.
But if you allow it, then it's not their fault, it's your fault.
Right. And then you are going to suffer the consequences of that. They're not going to respect you. They're not going to listen to you.
Yeah, and you'll be very frustrated
all
with
the
your
time.
kids, and you don't have to be. If you'll be consistent with discipline. I'm not talking about over-disciplining. I'm talking about just being consistent with the rules you have and disciplining properly.
And I think the ditch also on that, the other side of the ditch is that they only tell the kids, when your dad gets home, he's going to discipline you. Yeah. And they never correct the kids never suffer any consequences until dad gets home, and by then it's too late.
And the other side, and speaking as a dad, sometimes dads feel like the first thing that happens when they walk in the door is that they're told to discipline the kids, and it's like, all I ever do, I don't get to spend any quality time with them, all I ever do is discipline them. And so if a mom will go ahead and deal with the discipline during the day, then if it's serious, of course,
Yeah.
Dad. And if Dad's home, Dad ought to be the one to discipline them. Mom should not be disciplining them when Dad's home.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
But if the first thing that happens every day is he walks through the door and he's told your children, you need to discipline your kids,
Right.
then it does get to feeling like,
Yeah.
man, I never get to spend actual time with my kids. I only have to discipline them. And it is both of your responsibilities.
Right.
Say it that way.
Yes, it is both. And I know sometimes it feels like as the wife, all we do is correct and discipline the kids. But then I would take that back to then I didn't properly train.
Yeah, then training.
If all I'm doing is disciplining all day long.
Training has to be the paramount thing. Train up a child first.
And we've done a podcast on that. We've done one on training the kids.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure you're diligent about training your kids so that you're not spending all day discipline. But if you do have to discipline, make sure you're keeping the rules and make sure you deal with it swiftly and that it doesn't fester. Because I think sometimes that's where a lot of this culture and our kids now they despise the parents because they didn't discipline right away. They just,
well, the
let
gentle
them sit
gentle parenting is destroying families. It's
Yeah.
destroying children, and I know that that's going to be offensive to some people, but the reality is it's not your job to help your kids get in touch with their feelings. It is your job to help teach them character and discipline in their life.
to not let their
And
feelings run their life.
the feelings-oriented life has done more to destroy families and people
Yep.
than almost anything else. And feelings are what they are, but feelings should never rule our life. We
Right,
have to bring
absolutely.
ourselves in subjection to the Word of God, not to our feelings.
Right.
And gentle parenting focuses on the idea of feelings first. And it should never be that way. It should be obedience to God first.
Right.
And so,
Yep.
yeah, definitely. So, well, we're out of time.
We made lots of
there's-
friends on this one.
There's more role areas, then maybe we'll do another
Maybe.
podcast down the road on that. But we just wanted to share some thoughts there on the roles in a family. Please don't forget, if you have like a Q&A question that you would like us to answer, we're compiling a list of questions at this time to do a episode on that. So if you say, well, this might not be a whole episode, but I do have a question, just shoot that over to us.
Yep.
All right. Good.
Sounds good to me.
All right. No more pickleball for today.